What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. I'm super pumped to introduce my next guest to you today. He is an incredibly driven young man, and he's on a mission to empower 100,000 young people to live a life that makes them feel fulfilled and excited every day. He does that through his daily podcast called Young Smart Money, where he teaches financial literacy to young people, which, in my opinion, is a critically important decision, especially for people at a young age. He's also put together an amazing Facebook group where he helps people create podcasts and get them launched. And you can check that out at podcasting.group. That's actually the domain. He's a coach, he's an investor, he's a public speaker, he runs a social media agency, and he hosts his daily podcast, all while still in college, which is insane. Please welcome to the show, Apple Crider.
Corey, man, I appreciate it. I feel like my ego is definitely big enough already, but the intro was nice.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you being here, man, and taking some time out of your day, hopefully to share some of your experience and wisdom with our listeners. We're basically chatting it up with a lot of entrepreneurs and people that are on their journey. And the idea here is to provide inspiration and insight to that next generation of entrepreneurs. So I appreciate you being here, man, and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me. I mean, bringing that inspiration to the younger generation is really what I'm all about. So I'm glad to be here and to be able to share my message today.
For sure, man. So as I do with all my guests, I was doing a little research on you before we got on. And actually, I came across your Instagram feed and noticed on one of your stories that you got pretty lucky last year in a drawing at Anytime Fitness. So I got to ask, how are the personal training sessions working for you, bro?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a whole ordeal. I kind of forgot about that, but I think, that's still up on my Instagram. So there was this whole situation going on at Anytime Fitness, but I'm a loyal Anytime Fitness customer. Went there this morning, go there every single day pretty much when I'm not traveling. So
Yeah, that's funny. No, I just noticed you have a story on there where it was like a free drawing, and you enter your business card or whatever, and like you were literally the only business card in there. And then like
it was ridiculous
or something to actually call you. So anyway, that was pretty funny, man. I saw that you're good on the Instagram stories for sure. But anyway, let's jump into it, man. I want to talk to you about your story and your journey into entrepreneurship. And again, I mean, you're 23, right? You're a young cat.
I'm 20. Yeah, so I got started in the world of entrepreneurship. Yeah, like I said, I'm 20 years old. I got started for real when I was like 18 is when I started really publishing content for the first time, which is interesting because all throughout high school, I was actually off social media. I didn't have Snapchat, I didn't have Instagram. And now I'm distancing myself a little bit more from social media again. But there was a time where I was all in on social media for business when I never really used it for personal. So it was kind of a weird balance there. But the reason that I got started producing content in the first place when I was 18 years old, I just got into college and I was feeling pretty unfulfilled. I was majoring in computer science because really just for the reason that my dad was a computer programmer. He made a good amount of money and he seemed pretty happy with his life. So I was like, I'll take what he's having. I didn't really think too much about it. At that point in time, I didn't really know what I was passionate about. And I was just kind of going through the motions. My parents expected me to go to college. Everyone around me expected me to go to college. So I went to college, and just started doing the college thing. And a few months in, I was just feeling really, unfulfilled. I didn't like my classes. I wasn't learning the things that were getting me fired up. And I was really I was just going through the motions. And then I stumbled onto the world of personal finance YouTubers, which is a really interesting thing because I'd always been pretty cognizant of how my parents interacted with money, how I interacted with money. And I'd been working part-time jobs since I was 12. My uncle owns a campground. So as soon as I could stand behind a cash register, he was pulling me back there every summer to work for him. So I'd been making money for a while. I don't spend money very much, at least I didn't at that time. So I'd saved up a lot of money and I kind of wanted to know what could I be doing with this money that is better than having it sit in a US bank savings account and earning a 20th% in interest every year. What could I actually be doing with this money? Because I'm just sitting on it and I felt like there was definitely potential there. So that's why I got into the world of personal finance YouTubers, learned about investing, about building credit. And that started getting me really, really fired up. And I was just whoa, there's a whole other world out there. I can start taking these actions today that are going to start preparing me for the rest of my life. And that just really got me fired up because before that, I really didn't see like the long-term vision of like, I wasn't really looking past like this week or this month to think about how I could be structuring my life and the things that I could be doing to start building that foundation. But once I found personal finance, I was like, wow, like I can start to make these moves today that it's going to really impact my entire life. So that got me really fired up. And I dove deep into investing, started investing in the stock market, opened a Roth IRA, started investing in that, started building my credit. I was just like doing all the things. And eventually I got to this point where I was starting to tell my friends about all the stuff that I was doing. And they were basically just like, dude, chill out. I'm like 18 years old. I don't need to think about a Roth IRA or like investing or building my credit. Like that's the thing I'll think about when I'm like 30. And I was like, all right, that's cool. I don't want to like push anyone to do anything they don't want to do. So I started making content. I just started creating YouTube videos to basically like talk about the things that I wanted to talk about. And I was like, if you guys want to listen to me, here is your ability to do so. If you don't want to, no sweat. I'm going to just keep doing my thing over here. So I basically just, I was using YouTube as kind of like a creative outlet for me just to talk about the things I wanted to talk about because school wasn't really giving me the place to do that. So that was my first sort of step into kind of entrepreneurship, but like that wasn't really for money. Like I wasn't trying to make money off the YouTube channel. It was really like I said, like a creative outlet for me and just a place to talk about the things that I wanted to talk about because the people around me didn't want to listen. So I needed to put that information somewhere. So that's how I got started publishing.
That's awesome, man. And I love that, I mean, personal finance ended up being something that you're passionate about because like you say, like a lot of kids your age are just like, don't talk to me about that, man. Like I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I want to go out and party and like, hook up with chicks or like whatever. Like I
Yep.
just, my mind is elsewhere, but you're like, no, like I want to look at life and how I can set myself up for success. You're thinking about the fact that you have resources to use and how you can leverage those. I mean, just all of that mindset is really sort of interesting for, someone from, I guess your generation. And again, I'm not like that much older than you, but like, I just think about myself 10 years ago. And it's phenomenal that you are where you are, man. I appreciate your insight and your perspective. And I think it's what you said about just needing a place to publish, needing a place to talk about it. That's a critical piece, because if we don't have support and if we don't have people that we can talk about our ideas with, it's tough for us to get anywhere. So when it came to YouTube, like how was that fulfilling? Like, were you starting to get views? Were you starting to get traction? Were people engaging with your content? Because if you're just speaking into a void, it's still not really, it's not helping, right? So like what was the goal there? I mean, initially, was it really just a creative outlet or were you trying to create that engagement somehow?
So it was pretty much exclusively a creative outlet. Like I had ideas, like I knew people on YouTube were making money. And the reason that I actually like the thing that pushed me over the edge to actually start, because I'd wanted to do this for a while once I got the idea in my head. But like a lot of people, like I didn't just do it right away. Like I sat on it for a little bit. I thought about it. I tried to plan out logistics, like all these different things. But the thing that actually got me to start publishing was there was this guy on YouTube who at the time, I think he had about 5,000 subscribers maybe, and he was one of the personal finance guys that I was watching. And his name's Ryan Scribner. He's actually a business partner of mine now. But at the time, and he's got like 500,000 on YouTube. So he's really blown up his channel. But at the time, he had like 5,000 and he was giving away free like 15 or 30-minute Skype calls with just like random subscribers. He's like, if you want to talk to me for a little bit, just fill out this like Google form and we'll get on a call. So I was like, awesome. Like I look up to this dude. He's teaching me some cool stuff. So I want to talk to this guy. So I basically started talking to him, got on this call, and he was the one that was like, you got to start publishing. Because I told him like where I was at with like wanting to talk about personal finance, and like nobody wanted to listen to me. And he's like, dude, start a YouTube channel. And I was like, all right, I'll start a YouTube channel. So literally that night I filmed my first video, and it was such a rinky-dink operation. But the thing about it is like, I really didn't have plans to monetize the channel. And honestly, like I still don't. I mean, it still exists in the background. And at this point, it's completely outsourced. It brings in maybe like $100 a month for me. But that's completely passive. So, but it was never really a focus for me to grow it. I mean, the first video got like 50 views and I was like blown away. I was like, dude, 50 people just watched this video. Like, what the heck? Because I was like doing this in a conference room and I was like, man, if there would have been 50 people in that conference room, like that would have felt like I was really impacting people. So, and it was crazy too, because like you couldn't see me in the video, you could barely hear me. It was just so poor. It was such a bad video. But the fact that 50 people watched it was really really cool to me. And yeah, like you said, man, it made me feel like I wasn't just talking into a void. And even if only like 5 people would have watched, I mean, 5 people is still 5 people. Like that's people get desensitized to the numbers. I mean, people are playing the Instagram game where they're getting like hundreds of likes on a picture or something. They're watching guys get like millions of views on a video, and they get desensitized. Like there's some good if you just search. I forget exactly what you should search, but there's this article that I read that basically allows you to conceptualize how many people like 1,000 people is, or 10,000 people is, or 500 people is. And like, it gives you like a point of reference where you can think about like, okay, if I just reached whatever 30,000 people with this video, I basically just filled up a sports stadium. Like people don't comprehend that. Like reach 1,000 people, like that's 1,000 individuals. Okay, that's like a whole small town of people that just like gathered around to hear you talk about whatever you want to talk about. So it's really important to put stuff in perspective, because I mean, with all this social media stuff that's going around, I know I'm guilty of this as well, but like we get desensitized to how many people a couple hundred people is. Like a couple hundred people, that's like my graduating class was like 300 people. Like that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It took a long time for us to like walk across the stage and get our diploma. So like think about how many people you're actually reaching, because I mean, yeah, like it's real people. Even if it's only a dozen people, like that's still real.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's a really good point. You're right. A lot of people get desensitized to the numbers, or they're just only focused on the numbers. And
Yeah.
as soon as they make a post, they're like constantly refreshing, like how many likes did I get? How many likes did I get? How many likes did I get? But the reality is those are people. They're not likes.
It's real
Those,
people.
those are actual people. They're not just video views. And like you said, I mean, if you think about the numbers, if you were to take all of those individuals and put them in a room,
Yeah.
that should put it into perspective, the people that you're talking to. So I love
Yeah.
that you said that, because 50 views on a video could be a life changer, depending on what you're talking about and what you're offering.
Yeah.
So how did it transition from being a creative outlet to being a business for you, and actually, creating revenue?
Yeah. So that kind of happened. So I was getting into YouTube, and getting into YouTube led me to get into social media for the first time, but for business, not really for personal. So the next sort of place where I wanted to progress was onto Instagram, because I saw a lot of young people hanging out on Instagram. I'm like, I want to reach young people. So let's try to expand this thing that I'm doing on YouTube onto Instagram. So I did that. And I got pretty deep on Instagram. I was really learning how the algorithm worked, how to like get posts in front of more people, all that good stuff. So I was doing that on my own account, which was a business account. And then I started a separate account that I was just kind of growing on the side. It was called Successful Founders. And it was really just like a niche page for entrepreneurship that I was growing to sort of be a traffic source and whatnot. So I was able to grow that page pretty quickly. We got to like 50,000 followers in like, I don't know, maybe like 2 months or so. So I felt like I had a pretty good understanding of how Instagram worked. So once I'd done that, what I decided to do was I decided to find a problem and provide a solution, because that's what I believe entrepreneurship is. I believe entrepreneurship is finding a problem and providing a solution. A lot of people focus on the sale instead of the solution. And I think it's a really important distinction to make, that the way I see entrepreneurship is like you are providing a solution to a problem. You're not just trying to sell a product. So I had this skill set of Instagram, and I'm like, all right, with this skill set, what problem can I solve? So the problem that I decided to go after was people who had large YouTube followings but small Instagram followings. I wanted to bridge that gap for them, because I knew that these people knew how to create good content. They already knew how to build an audience on YouTube. They were creating good content. They just didn't know how to use that content on Instagram. So I was like, great, I'm going to come in and bridge this gap, because I know they already have good content. So that's not a problem that I'm going to have to solve. The only problem that I have to solve is helping them grow on Instagram. And I have the skill set to do that. So what I decided to do was I decided to find other personal finance YouTubers, mostly people that I've been watching for a long time. I built up a little bit of rapport with them because I'd just been commenting on their videos every once in a while. They knew my name. They knew my face. And I reached out to them and I'm like, hey, I want to help you for free. I'm going to grow your Instagram account, help that match the caliber of your YouTube account, just because I see that they're not really at the same level. and it worked really well. So the first client that I actually landed working for free was that same Ryan dude who at the time had like 5,000. He'd grown that to like 300,000 on YouTube, but his Instagram was still like 2,000 or so people. So I was like, man, huge gap here. I can come in and fix this. So I did, started working for him for free for a couple weeks. After a couple weeks, he saw the value I was providing, started paying me, referred me to like 2 other clients. And literally within the month of starting to work for free, I'd already made some like $3,000-$4,000 just by managing and growing people's Instagram accounts. So I kind of stumbled into it on accident because I was just trying to like provide value and solve a problem. I obviously knew that there was money to be made here if I could actually provide this solution, but I didn't really expect it to scale that quickly. And yeah, basically just that's the story.
That's awesome, man. And I love what you say. You said two things that I think are really important for people to hear, which, first off is what you said about entrepreneurship and business in general. You're absolutely right. Like the only reason for people to be in business is to provide a solution to a problem. Like we have to think about our business as our customers, like we're literally helping them get out of a bad situation, whatever it is. Like they have an issue, they have a problem with something. Your product or your service needs to be the solution to that. It's not all about money, and I talk to this about people or to people all the time where, they're constantly trying to increase their revenue or increase their profits, increase, the bottom line. And while, yeah, that's obviously important to sustaining a business, if you take care of your customers, like the money will come, and I what was it Zig Ziglar said, like, you get what you want by helping enough people get what they want, and it's a beautiful thing when you look at it that way, because not only are you creating massive value for the world, you're putting goodwill out there, if you believe in karma, like all of that is good, and not only that, you're going to be getting compensated very well for doing it. And then another thing that you mentioned, which I think is also really important for starting entrepreneurs, is to get in and just get your feet wet. And like you said, do the work for free.
Yeah.
I mean, I see this, there's people in both camps, there's people that think, well, if I do it for free, then they're not ever going to value me. And everybody else is going to know that I'm doing it for free. And so like, I'll never be able to charge high prices. But the reality is you prove your value by just getting your foot in the door, right?
Yep.
There's so many people screaming, let me take your money, let me take your money. If you come in and you're like, look, I just want to work on my experience. I want to, I want to learn this skill and I want to help you for free. Like who can turn that down, And like,
yeah, 100%.
But once
And
you start doing it,
this guy that I reached out to, he straight up told me, like, I get multiple emails every single week of people telling me that they want to manage my social media and they're going to charge me however many dollars a week for that. And you were the first person that was like, I will do it for free. So that's why you stood out. Like he was already getting tons of offers. And guys, the big thing is like, you got to differentiate yourself from everyone else. Like that's my motto in everything. It's like, if I see everybody going left, I'm going right. Like, like that is the way I think about things. And it's not just going right to go right. It's going right to see like what would happen if I did this, because obviously I know what happens if I go left because everyone else already went left. I see what's going, I see where they're at. I see what they're doing with that. But like, I have no idea what happens when I go right because nobody goes right. So it's just like, do the things that nobody else is doing because that's the only way you're going to get the results that nobody else is getting. And I mean, if you want to end up like the status quo, that's fine. Like a lot of people they're just going through life saying like, don't make my life hard. Like I'm fine where I'm at. But if you don't want to follow that path, like you need to start taking actions that aren't the actions that the people in that camp are taking. And that's one of the reasons why I totally recommend working for free, just to get your foot in the door. I mean, like build up those testimonials, but also just because you're really going to make yourself stand out from everyone else that's like pitching this person 100 things a day. Like anyone out there who's making money online, who runs a small business is I'm sure getting pitched so many things every single day. I know I am. So being able to stand out from all that noise is really, really important.
I love that, man. Yeah, you're totally right. If everybody's going right, you go left. If they're going right, you go right or left. You know what I mean? Seth Godin wrote a book called The Purple Cow, and it's all about that, and it's just, it's so true. Like you have to differentiate yourself. And one thing, that you did to do that, which I think is a great illustration of that point, like anybody can come in and say, hey, look, I can help you build your Instagram following, right? Look, all these pages I have on Instagram, I know about it. I can help you do it. And it's like, well, I'm actually going to focus on the YouTubers that have a following and are, like you said, they're lacking on the Instagram side. And I'm going to provide the solution to fill that gap. I'm not helping everyone. right?
Nope.
Not out there trying to just build everybody's Instagram profile or help local businesses or whatever. It's like you picked a very specific problem and you went after it. And by having that specific solution, it's very clear in their mind how you're going to add value. So I just think that that's a great way to illustrate that point. I mean, you did it maybe without even realizing that you were doing it at the time, but like it's super important that you have to, like you say, differentiate yourself from the crowd. Everybody's
Yeah.
for attention, and how are you going to make yourself stand out?
Exactly. It's like, and by going very specific, one, you're able to speak directly to that person and everything you do. Two, everyone you work for is a clear testimonial that it's going to work for them because like I just help someone within the exact same places you do this thing. Chances are pretty good I can do the exact same thing for you because you're in the exact same space. And then also it's just so easy. Like once you figure it out for one person, like it's just so duplicatable because they all literally have the same thing going on and you can just like copy and paste the system. You figure it out once, you're good to go. You don't have to like figure out personal finance, then figure out food bloggers, then figure out like fitness influencers. Like you just figure it out one time and then you just like mass replicate it.
So
And I just see so many people trying to, and it's tough too. Like if you're just getting started and you're not making any money, like the money's tempting. Like you got people like offering you money. You're like, well, I should probably just do that. There's a fine line because you want to like experiment. I feel like you want to experiment and like get a feel for like a bunch of different things, so you don't just like pigeonhole yourself before you actually realize what you want to be doing. But at the same time, like if you spread yourself so thin, it's going to be tough for you to actually get good at something and for you to actually like build a scalable business. Because I mean, sure, you can be an independent contractor picking up like social media gigs here and there, like Facebook ads gigs here and there, like just like random things. But if you really want to be able to like build that thing up and like start building a solid foundation, you kind of got to like pick a spot and dig pretty deep.
So true, man. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That's literally the fastest way to like a miserable life is to just
Yeah.
get services for everybody. And what you said about creating a system and being able to duplicate that, that's another huge benefit of being a specialist, right? When you pick, like you say, one thing and you get really good at it, you will be able to find, all right, what are the processes and things that I'm doing like over and over and over again every time I get a new client? Create a system around that. And now
Yep.
it's literally just plug and play. You get another client in that same niche, just plug and play the system, plug and play the system, And at some point you can even hire out a team to do that for you. And that's when you can transition into another field or another niche and start, expanding on your business. But I also agree with what you said, like taste everything. And especially when you're young, like get out there and try everything. You don't know what you don't know. So
Yep.
if you're not trying things, you have no idea whether or not you've actually found something that you can be, truly passionate about in the long term. So that's great advice, man. So, we're kind of talking about the whole digital landscape and building your business online. I want to ask you, like, what's some advice you have for people that are looking at the internet as a potential income stream? I mean, as you know, there's endless opportunities out there. Like, how do we safeguard ourselves from the scams and sort of the charlatans that are out there and actually find an opportunity that would make sense? I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean that's a really good question. There's a lot of people trying to sell you a lot of things online, especially on Instagram. It's pretty crazy. Um, so I mean, what I do is I try not to get too attached to like one certain thing. Like right now, so the way I like to think about things is like right now I am trying to impact, or I am impacting 100,000 young people to live a life that makes them feel fulfilled and excited every single day. Like that is what I'm doing. And I like to think about that as kind of like building a house. Okay. And to build a house, you're going to need a lot of different tools to do so. You're not just going to use a hammer and build this whole house. You're going to need like a screwdriver, like a chainsaw, like all these different tools. And the tools in your toolbox are the different things that are helping you achieve this goal. So for me, my main tool right now is my podcast, okay? Because my podcast lets me reach hundreds of thousands of young people with my message. So that is one of the tools in my toolbox. Instagram, another tool in my toolbox. I can reach tens of thousands of people on Instagram with my message. Another tool in my toolbox, public speaking. Okay, so I have all these tools in my toolbox, but I'm not too attached to any of them, okay? Because I realize that as time goes on, as the project gets closer to completion, as I'm building this house, I'm going to need to switch out the tools. I'm going to need to like use different things to complete whatever stage of the process that I'm at. So I think it's really important for us to not get too attached to any certain tool, any certain platform, because like, sure, Instagram can be a great way to drive traffic for your business, and a podcast can be a great way to like get people in the door. But long term, like things are going to change. Like, I don't think Instagram is going to be the top dog forever. I don't think podcasting is going to be the top thing. Well, it's not even the top thing yet. It's still definitely very much rising. So there's going to be different things, and you're going to have to adapt as your business changes, as your business grows, as your goals grow. You're going to have to adapt what tools you're using. But as far as like the digital landscape goes, I think it's really important to have that big vision in mind and like know where you're going, and then figure out what tools are going to help you build that house, what tools are going to help you accomplish this project at this stage. But then again, as stages change, the tools are going to change. And that's the main way I think about things. As far as like avoiding like the charlatans out there, I'm pretty skeptical when people say things. So before I really go deep with anyone, before I invite anyone on my podcast, I do my homework, because I've gotten burned in the past. I had this one guy on my podcast that I just still am very, very sorry to my listeners for, because he was just a total whack job. And yeah, there was, I don't even want to go into that, because there was just a whole mess of things that happened.
Yeah.
But like, it's really important, because a lot of people out there, they are not what they seem they are. And you really do have to look past the surface, because a lot of people will say things that just have no basis in reality whatsoever, just to get the click, to get the follower. And you really have to do your due diligence, especially if you're going to be endorsing someone, or if you're going to invest with someone. Like, you really got to make sure you know what they're actually up to, not just what their Instagram posts say they're up to. So that's the biggest thing.
That's really, really good points, man. And you know, I love the analogy too of looking at it as like your toolbox full of tools, and you've got a goal, which is to build the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, as you say, as you go through the different stages of building that house, the requirements for the tools that you need are going to change.
Yeah.
And if you look at everything out there as simply a tool to get your message out, it makes a lot of sense in that regard, And I think another important distinction to make is to understand who you're talking to, right? And
Yes.
where they hang out.
Yes.
You meet your prospect where they are. So, if you, like, for instance, you speak to a lot of young people, that's why it makes perfect sense for you to get on Instagram and possibly Snapchat and some of the, the up and coming social media channels, because that's where most young people are hanging out. Facebook, there's obviously still a lot of young people on Facebook, but it's tending to trend now towards the older generation. And that's just going to continue to happen moreover as time goes on. So it's brilliant that you can see the future, and you can see that transition happening, so you can position yourself in a way to be able to flow and move with that based on, how the landscape changes. But there are a lot of opportunities out there, and there's definitely no excuse to not be publishing, right? If you've got a message to share, if you've got any kind of value to add to the world, like, you just have to get out there and start talking about it. And, doing your due diligence on people that you're going to invest in is extremely important as well. I like to say, and Gary Vee, I'm sure you're a fan of Gary Vee. He always says this too, like, watch what people are doing. Don't necessarily listen to what they're saying,
Yeah.
If you watch what they're doing in their business, like, if they're talking about, hey, we can help you on YouTube, but their YouTube channel is like lacking, like, why would you want to trust somebody like that? You have brilliant ads, and they've got all these testimonials, and you know what I mean? It's like, that stuff can be photoshopped. If their actual YouTube channel doesn't have any subscribers, well, then they're not doing something right, So look at what people are doing, not what they're saying, and definitely do your research. And don't just buy into any opportunity. Vet it, make sure that people are actually being successful with it, and that, you can join a group of people maybe and talk about that type of thing. It's not something that people are, ashamed to talk about. A lot of MLM sort of opportunities are like that, where people don't even want to talk about them. You have to join the group before you can even hear about the opportunities.
Yeah.
That should raise some red flags, stuff like that. Like, that should raise flags for you, for sure. Well, awesome, man. Well, let's go ahead and transition into the last topic, which is that whole work-life balance. And as a young guy running a business, I'm sure you've got a lot of hobbies and a lot of things that you love to do, friends, family, the whole nine. So how are you managing it in your business and in your life?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the first thing that I think is really important for the listener to think about is focus. And when I say focus, a lot of people think they're focused when they're not. They're just really not. Like, it's crazy. And I've been doing a lot of work in Facebook groups lately, and some people in Facebook groups, like they'll ask a question. I'll be like, man, you got to focus in a bit. And they're like, dude, I'm super focused. Like, I have my podcast, my YouTube channel, my Facebook, my Instagram, my like LinkedIn, all of that's like for social media marketing. Like, all these things are for social media marketing. I'm like, dude, like, if you want to start seeing results, like, focus on one of those channels and get really, really good at that channel and speaking to people with that channel, and go from there. Because I was spread so thin. And even if all of your stuff is for the same mission, even if everything that you talk about is podcasting related, and you're doing all these different platforms and they're all podcasting related, you're likely spreading yourself too thin. A lot of people see Gary Vee, they see Grant Cardone, and they're like, oh, I have to be omnipresent on all of these channels because that's what these big guys are doing, and I look up to these big guys. Guys, they have teams of like 20 people just on their personal brand, okay? You don't.
Yeah.
You do not. You need to focus on one thing at a time, okay? About 12 months ago, I was feeling really stressed out all the time. And I didn't know why. And my buddy told me that I needed to focus more. And I was like, shoot, you're right. And he's like, dude, make a list of all the projects you're working on and pick 3 of them to work on. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I made a list and I was working on 27 things. I had 27 plates that I was trying to keep in the air all at one time. It was a mess. I mean, no wonder I couldn't sleep at night because I was so frazzled and stressed out all of the time because I was doing way too much. So I picked 3 things, and literally, so I had 27 things. I picked 3 that I was going to focus on. The other 24, I actively avoided. Okay. I fired probably like 5 or 6 clients. Okay. I took a huge pay cut when I did that. Reduced my income probably by like 80% or so, because I realized that it wasn't about the money at that stage. It was about really building a solid foundation, building my skill set, making myself extremely valuable at a few key things, and forgetting everything else. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you really just have to think about like, okay, what is really, really important to me at this stage right now? And what can wait on the back burner? Like, what does not need to be done right now? And that's the key. That's the key, guys. It's focus. Okay. If you look at people who got to a successful place, like, they went all in on one thing, usually for like decades. Like, the people who are at the top right now, like, they were not trying to do everything. They were trying to get really, really good at one thing. They were becoming specialists. They were not trying to be a jack of all trades. And so many people are just getting that screwed up. And it's tough because there's so many shiny objects. Guys, you can be successful with literally anything. Like, the reason you see people being successful in everything is because you can be successful in everything, but you cannot be successful at everything, okay? You need to pick something, go all in on that one thing. Once you get that to whatever, $10,000 a month or whatever your number is, then sure, think about expanding. But you can make $10,000 a month with any of these things easily, okay? But you need to focus on one of them, because if you try to do 18 at once, you're not going to get anywhere with any of them. It's all about linear energy, guys. Like, linear energy. If you focus all of your energy in one direction, you're going to go far in that direction. If you focus all of your energy in all directions, you're going to go nowhere, because you're pushing in all directions. You're staying in the same place. So I just get really passionate about that, because like, there's so many people who I see a ton of potential in. Like, they have the work ethic, they have the skill set, but they just can't focus for the life of them. And they think they are, because they're all like doing things that are like interrelated, but they're just not giving any of them enough attention, enough energy, enough resources to really take off for them. So they're just sitting in the same place when they like really have the potential to like do some crazy things. They don't and they don't exercise that, because they're just doing so many different things. And like, I catch myself doing this all the time, because like, there's so many things that I want to be doing, but you got to realize that you can't do them all. And there's a season for everything. But you just got to realize like, what is this year's season for, and go all in on that one thing, and stop trying to have a podcast, a YouTube channel, a Facebook group, a freaking like everything and a half. It's just not going to go well for you. And again, you can be successful. You can get any of these things to like whatever, $10,000 a month or whatever your number is, but you can't get it with all of them. Okay. You just gotta get good at one thing. And then from there you can think about going past that. But I just, Yeah, so many people go wrong on that.
I love that, man. I can feel your passion, because right, it's true. Like we have to just focus on that one thing. And kind of what you're talking about is that Pareto principle, like the 80-20 rule,
Yeah.
if you eliminate 80% of just like the noise, then you can really focus in on that 20%, which is actually going to drive your results. And there is a lot of shiny objects, man, and there's a lot of opportunity. And as entrepreneurs, like we're just constantly bombarded with ideas, and you're always thinking of the next big thing, so it's hard not to jump ship. But like, Guns N' Roses has been playing, what is it? Welcome to the Jungle for the last 40 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's reasons why things work. And when you find what works, you stick with it, and
Yep.
you drive that thing home until it's just like it's old and dusty, and then you move on to the next. You know what I mean? So I love that. I love that that advice, man. And it's been a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories with us. I got another question to ask you, which and I know you're still kind of just getting started in your journey, but at this point where you are with the experience that you have, what's some advice that you would give yourself, like a couple of years ago or 5 years ago when you were just getting started?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, focus is huge, man. I mean, y'all already heard my rant on focus, so I would definitely give myself that rant like 2-3 years ago for sure. But also just like realizing, I got this graph on my wall over here. Let me grab it. Actually, I don't know if y'all guys aren't on the video. Basically, I got this graph that I got on my wall. Oh, this video is not going to work. The lighting's terrible. But basically, on this graph, we've got time, we've got memory, and we've got effect. And basically what the graph shows is that when you take an action, your memory of the event, when the time frame is short, like if I did something yesterday, I can remember that I did that thing. If I went to the gym yesterday, I can remember that I went to the gym yesterday. But the thing is the effect, okay? So the effect curve is very low at the beginning. Okay, so if I went to the gym yesterday, it's going to have a very low effect on me, my body, my physique, my strength, whatever. But if I continue going to the gym every single day for a year, once that time frame has had a chance to expand, then that effect is going to be a lot greater. So that's something that I just didn't realize from an early age. Like I saw people who had certain results, whether that was in their business, in their relationship, in their health, whatever. Like I saw people with these results, and I assumed wrongly that they got those results with the actions that they were currently taking. Okay. So I saw someone in a place where they're making whatever, like $10,000 a month. Okay. I saw them making $10,000 a month with YouTube. And I was like, oh, if I do what they're doing right now on YouTube, then I can get myself to that $10,000 a month place. Not true, okay? Because they got to that place through the work that they were doing 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 24 months ago. They've been building this foundation. So I would need to, if I wanted to get to that place following the same path as them, I would need to look back in time to see what were they doing 6, 12, 24 months ago instead of just what they're doing right now. So when you see guys who have certain results, again, in any health, wealth, or relationships, like realize that those results did not come from the actions that they're taking today, but from the actions that they've been taking for months or even years in the past. So I think that's really important for young people to realize as well, because I still catch myself like seeing someone doing something and having success and correlating those things when in reality, there can be a huge spread between when the action is taken and when the results come. And when you see the results, those results are not from the actions that they're taking today, but from the actions that they were taking in the past. So that's another thing that I really wish I would have understood.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's really smart, man. And I saw the graph, and again, for those of you that aren't watching the video here, it's exactly what you just mentioned, which is as time goes on, your results continue to grow, but like your memory of doing the thing goes down because now it's just becoming routine. At a certain point, it becomes routine. But like I said, you can't look at Gary Vee and Grant Cardone at what they're doing today, blasting, every single avenue out there, because they have huge teams that help them do this, right? You can't look at that and say, oh, that's what I got to do to get to where they're at. Like No. Let's look at what they were doing 5 years ago, you know, how they got
Yep.
started. Look at Gary Vee on YouTube. Look at his wine TV. Like some of those
Yeah.
videos are horrendous, man, especially compared to the content he's putting out today, you know, but like that's how he got started. And the reality is everybody has to just find their own voice, you know, and like in order to do that, you got to start doing the work.
Yep.
So I love that, man. And you know, again, it's been a blast, dude. I really appreciate having you on here and you spending some time with us today. So tell everybody where they can find you and what you got going on in your world.
Yeah, man. So the best place to find me is in my free podcasting Facebook group, which is just like Corey said earlier, it's just podcasting.group or www.podcasting.group. That's the best place to find me. I'm super active there doing live trainings a couple times a week on different like podcasting related stuff. So if you got interest in that, hit me up there. If you want to listen to my podcast, it's called Young Smart Money. You can find that on iTunes, Spotify, any of the podcast places. If you go to applecrider.com, you'll find a bunch of other stuff that I have for you, a bunch of free stuff. But that's the best place to find me. And then I'm also on Instagram. Haven't posted on there on my feed for like 2-3 months, but I hop in the stories every day. Do some cool stuff. So if you want to find that, that's Apple Crider Official. But yeah, that's where you guys can find me.
Awesome, man. Definitely. I will link all of that up down below. And you guys definitely go check out Apple. Go check out what he's doing with his podcast. If you want to learn more about investing, about money, about how to make smart money decisions, definitely go check out his podcast. And again, brother, it's been a blast having you on here today. I really appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one.
Straight up, Corey. I appreciate it.